Hope everybody can hear. Okay, good. I just had to unmute the mic. And let me go back to, I think, the events page so I can get the link for our friend. Let's see here. Here we go. All right. And I will give this to, let's see. I wonder why, curious, I can't find you just in the, yeah, you don't come up in the directory. So I'm just going to give you the link. Everyone, hold on. Just give us 1 second. Here we go. All right, so now you should have the link, curious.
You guys, ain't no stopping us now. We're on the move.
All right, so now that was all because if I do a pre-event, you're saying that the chat room won't
I'm not
be
sure if
active.
I'm not sure if that's the case, but in my experience, it has been.
That's strange. That's strange.
Well, not really, because when you think about it, I mean, it is strange, but at the same time, you don't want to have people in your chat room unmanned at all hours of the day and night until the event is ready. So I think that's what they do.
Really, because it seems like to me that you couldn't be able to be active in the chat room if the event isn't broadcasting. I mean, it seems like to me it should be broadcasting.
Nope, you actually can be. No, you can be in chat. Even after the show closes until the chat closes, and you have 8 hours if you want to stream that long and leave it on.
Yeah.
People will do as they please.
Oh my God. Okay. So now we got who inspired you, right? Now the next question I want to do is, and you already answered. Why do you embrace feminism? What do you see as a danger for Black women?
Oh gosh, I actually had a mini recording for this. Okay. I will instead read for you. I think that being socially cast out of movements that are supposed to help us is one of the main dangers that we face as Black women. On one end, we have pro-Black, which a lot of people interpret as not being pro-Black women. And then on, the back end of that, you have the option of joining feminism, but until I'd say recently, there's hasn't been a huge push for intersectionality until the last few years. I mean, I think I felt included, but not everybody did, and I didn't realize the ways that feminism had been whitewashed.
Right.
My eyes weren't open to that. But I have a quote from Audre Lorde, and she said it to me best. And this was to white feminists. She said, "Some problems we share as women, some we do not. You white women fear your children will grow up to join the patriarchy and testify against you. We fear our children will be dragged from a car and shot down in the street, and you will turn your backs on the reasons they are dying. I find that Black women, especially mothers, are probably at risk for serious depression and lifelong sadness. When you see what's out there for Black children, and in turn, so many of our men are imprisoned, those are things that I think are dangerous for us. And in addition, raging misogyny in our community that goes unchecked and unacknowledged. When I look at the statistics regarding homicide for domestic violence victims in our community, they're almost 3 times as high compared to the white woman. We are being murdered by men who are supposed to love us in this country. And this is just here in America. Sorry for any international listeners. I do have videos that do include you and take into account your struggle. I realize that single motherhood, or unplanned single motherhood, I should say, and being abandoned, it is a huge problem, not just for Black women in this country, but for Black women abroad. In Africa, people just take off. So when we don't have reproductive rights, such as birth control and whatnot, and people are, in some cases, we don't have a choice in getting pregnant, then there's no way, I think, to escape a cycle of poverty for single mothers, other than to bridge the pay gap, which, statistically would help single mothers significantly. I think being underpaid and being abused by a capitalistic society is a danger for Black women. And going back to what I was saying about Black men and being in jail, I've heard a lot of times, particularly in this sector, Black men telling me, well, you guys aren't going to jail, you guys are not being arrested, but we are actually being arrested, and we aren't going to jail in such high numbers, but it is not to our benefit that we are being left out, so to speak. It harms all of us when such a high number of Black men go to jail. And when I say all of us, I mean heterosexual Black women, or Black women whose and Black women and children whose parents are in jail, whose fathers are in jail. 1 in 9 Black children have a parent in prison, compared to 1 in 57 white children. 13% of Americans' population is African American. 40% of the 52% of incarcerated parents in America's prisons are Black. This leads to a large gap that probably accounts for a good amount of the single motherhood in our community, as well as the idea that we're just supposed to deal. I think that silencing Black women is a huge issue. Telling us that if we want peace, we're just going to have to be quiet and not at all address the things that are going on in our communities and the things that ail us.
Right.
There's this myth of, well, we need to come together, but really what they mean is we need to ignore what I'm talking about, ignore gender-based violence and issues that affect my gender in order to only focus on your issues as a Black male. When really a lot of the issues that we're facing in our community can be solved by giving us equality. It is not a detriment to Black men for us to have equality in our community at all. It's better for Black men. So, but people don't want to give up privilege. When you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. I mean, look at what's happening now with Donald Trump supporters. They feel like they're losing their rights. Well, Garage, talk to me.
Well, no, I was actually wanting to for you to get all that out, because I didn't want to really just come in and interrupt. But what I wanted to say, because you had brought up, I want to go back because there was a couple of things you did bring up. You were talking about how one of the things you come across is, well, we when black, when brothers are confronting you about being a feminist, or at least speaking up for black women, and they say, well, what about what we're going through? We have such a high number of women, of us going to prison. But the thing is that if you are in a relationship with a black man, and if you are a heterosexual woman, one, when I say a relationship, I don't mean necessarily a boyfriend and girlfriend, or husband and wife, but even if you were the mother. See, the thing is that I believe that women are in the prisons with us. They are connected to us when we're in the prison. First of all, it is a drain on resources from the home when someone's incarcerated. So it's not like as if when brothers are when brothers are obviously in prison and incarcerated, that everybody else who's connected to him is completely free and everything's fine for them. Phone bills, the phone bill is high. Quite frankly, when you look at the numbers between what black women are actually getting in terms of the high number of STDs from heterosexual relationships with black men, and they are the ones contracting it from the men. But it's the men who have a high number, the black men who are having high numbers of getting STDs from male to male contact. Now, if you look at the numbers of those who are incarcerated, I think we can almost draw a conclusive line in connection to that. So in a lot of ways, women are indeed connected to the high numbers of men being in prison, and that they are suffering along with that as well. It's not like everything is hunky-dory and fine for black women because we have these high numbers of men locked up. So
exactly, these people are nursing an extremely myopic view, where black men are just in these prisons alone, when in reality, we all know that black mother who's driving to, I have an echo, driving to the prison or putting money on the books and working hourly. And the goods and everything in prison, the cost is exorbitant.
Yeah.
They're high. They really take advantage of the situation. And I think there's not a support system for women, for mothers, sisters, family members who, and obviously the mothers of children whose fathers are behind bars. There's not a support system. There's a sense of shame. And now even more so. I know you were going to get into this later on in the broadcast. You were going to talk about how black women are being told by other YouTubers, they want to abandon the community and whatnot. And here's what I wanted to tie in with this particular conversation. The thing is, the situations that we're seeing today are being blamed on quote unquote thugs. Mm-hmm. That's being blamed on Pookie, or it's funny, but at the same time, it's really, really ridiculous.
No, it is. Yeah.
These situations are not always what they seem. People think, well, I'm not a thug, but they don't realize that in a racist society, you could very well be a thug just due to the color of your skin. And I mean, it's really dehumanizing when I hear on both sides, oh, well, you shouldn't have gotten pregnant by that thug and such, when really you love who you love. And I do believe in making good choices, but at the same time, they don't realize that nobody's really going out with a guy who's like wearing sagging pants or anything anymore.
Right.
You know, it's a different look now, and they're not taking into account that so many of the men that do have children, multiple children, and don't care for them, aren't necessarily these thugs. They're men that have jobs. They're the quote-unquote good guys. And I think that it's really ridiculous that, I guess I could say lower-class black men are getting a bad rap while these other people have class privilege and get to do as they please.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
You know, they're being blamed for so much of what's going on in the community. But that was an, you know, a tangent, but going on.
Well, what I was wanted to no, but that's a good point. You know, the thing is that what I'm starting to hear from you at this point is that you're getting challenged on how dare you as a black woman be concerned with black women issues when it is the black man who's catching hell. But what you're really saying is first of all, black women are catching hell, black men are catching hell. Can you not see that there is an intricate that there's an intricate situation here? And you also, and you first of all, you did that Audre Lorde quote, which then presents the idea that it's very obvious that black women, especially those who identify themselves as black feminists, know and understand that their issue, what's the word I won't say married into, but is interconnected with what they're dealing with is as a race. So in other words, there is no separation.
There really isn't.
What black women are going through, there is no I'm just a black woman, this is just my issues. Like, they know and understand that when they have sons, there is a concern for that son. There is a concern for him getting shot by the police. There's a concern for him going from school to prison, through the school to prison pipeline. There's a concern that he is not going to get the kind of services that he might need in case he has ADD or ADHD, or he has not personality problems, behavior problems that go untreated, as it happens to a lot of our boys in school when they are having issues. And it's just basically, oh, he's just a wild black boy. Let's just push him out of school as quickly as possible so that he doesn't keep distracting the rest of the class and be a bad element. It's, you know, whereas had he been a white boy or white male, he would have gotten help. And I've seen this because my youngest daughter goes to a school where there's a lot of different races of children in that school, and you can see some of the differences that the way the white parents will raise their children, and they'll fight for services and they will fight for treatment and help. Whereas we might be a little ignorant about that sort of thing. But in other words,
there's stigma. There's a great deal of stigma regarding a child being labeled. There's fear of the medical community due to a history of abuse on our people. Due to black people being, what do you call it? Where they test on you, basically treated like lab rats. But not only that, there's stigma in getting help for mental health for our people. There's shame in being called quote unquote crazy, when in reality, who could live in a system like we live in and deal with the oppression that we've dealt with? Even if you're not dealing with direct oppression and you have class privilege, you still know that just based on the color of your skin, the next person may be dealing with that. And that's ridiculous.
Right.
You know, but there's no way that mental health isn't going to be a factor in what's going on with us. Not only that, but you're dealing with, you know, a bell curve and whatnot when it comes to IQ testing and things like that, cultural differences. So I think that that's something going to that's going to come into play in terms of the school system and whatnot. But the other thing is, I think there's a lot of enabling going on of poor behavior.
Enabling of poor behavior by who? Like in other words,
Well,
when you say enabling.
well, I think that there's kind of like a victim narrative going on here.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that there's misbehavior in school and whatnot, I hear a lot of, due to what white supremacy has obviously done, there's distrust of authority figures. And there's this whole, I hear a lot of mothers saying, hey, look, you're not going to say my black son is doing XYZ in school.
Right.
You're not. And the child may very well be acting out, but I see women taking time off of work to go get their kids. And not only that, but I know you mentioned behavioral issues and things of that nature. We're having that issue over here with black girls too.
Yeah, no,
we're much more likely to be suspended than black boys.
So in other words, you're saying like when black girls are going through something, and it could very well be like something serious, like a chemical, like whatever where they could actually try to get, where they could be getting help. It goes on unexamined, and it's like, nope, off.
Well, I think for both.
Suspended, get out. Yeah.
No, I think for both. What I mean is that as a parent, it's very taxing.
Right.
It's very taxing, especially if you're just one parent and you see families band together and you know, maybe in the white community, and surround with support, whereas there's a great deal of shame, not only in being a single mother, there's shame in getting mental health services for your kid, and there really isn't a support system. So I think a lack of support system would be a danger for black women.
Mm-hmm.
That and rampant sexual abuse.
Now, I want to read something real quick because we're coming up on, you just came up on a point that that makes sense to me. I'll put the link once this session is ended and it uploads. I think I may take down the first session, and it uploads. I'm going to put the link. It's from empowermagazine.com, and it's called Real Talk: Why Young Black Women Are Getting STDs at a Higher Rate. Now, it's not so, I don't want to focus too much on the STD part. I just want to focus on cause and effect, because we talk so much about effect, but we never talk about cause. They bring up depression, and they say that a recent study showed that black women ages 18 to 27 who reported higher levels of depression also reported engaging in riskier sexual behavior. Now, for young black women, depression may manifest itself in risky sexual behavior. Therefore, empowering young black women through health education and formal and informal social support systems, such as social groups, families, mentor programs, may prevent their engagement in risky sexual behavior as a means to deal with depression. This information is also beneficial for physicians and other healthcare professionals when dealing with young black women who may be depressed, to ensure that they are educating them on how to handle stress and the importance of practicing safe sex. Now, my point here is that you just brought up something very important, and I think we've sort of been, as we're talking about healthcare now and education and how we're dealing and how we as a community deal with certain things, we're afraid of stigma and all this crap. It's obvious that the biggest issue is we don't want to talk about things like depression. We don't want to talk about things, all we ever want to talk about are morals. Who's making wrong choices. If your kid is acting up, he just needs to get his ass beat so that way the white man don't kick him out of school. Like all this nonsense. And we don't want to talk about things like psychology. We don't want to talk about things like depression. We don't want to talk about things, and we don't want to talk about support and supporting each other, forming support systems. Like we never want to talk about shit like that and understand that that is some of the driving force behind a lot of our issues. We don't want to seek out help for our kids or for each other, for that matter, because it's just weird. Well, that's just, I hate to use the word gay, but you know how it is. Well, that just sounds gay. You're going to take them to the psychologist for what? Like, it's that attitude, and we have to get all over that.
Well, it's really ridiculous. I think part of the issue is that Black people are seen as so tough.
Yeah.
And they call it strong, but really it's oppressed and a lack of ability to feel.
I've been calling it the Klingon syndrome. Like we love to think of ourselves as Klingons. Like, but go ahead.
You're not lying. You are not lying. Oh, I'm East Coast Candy in the chat room.
Oh, cool. Some people in the chat room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. They like you. Well, yes, you're right. The thing is, I like to also focus on solutions. There's stigma reduction going on, and there are support groups, but I think that there should be, and should continue to be, a focus on race-related stigma reduction in terms of mental health help. We often say, oh, that person is just upset, or, he's just not having a good day. But that guy could very well be dealing with, bipolar or, schizophrenia. And I saw that very young. Very young, I saw that kind of thing. And you just kind of tiptoe around the guy, so to speak. Or and if you're a girl, depression is just, you're depressed, well, you should hear what your mother had to go through. And especially if you're a girl in a single parent household with multiple children, you're going to be tending to those kids. That's what you're going to be doing. No time for depression. You're basically a secondary mother.
Yeah, you mean like the older child, right?
Yes.
The older daughter? Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And I think it does happen with boys. It's kind of, though with boys, I notice, what I notice with boys is, and this is really sad too, oh, your dad is out of the picture, so you're the man now. Mm-hmm. No chance for our kids to grow up. It's almost incestuous. It's like emotional incest.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really good.
Well, it's true. I was reading an article about it last year, but the emotional incest that goes on as a result of fathers abandoning their kids, that affects Black boys, I think, greatly. And if you're not out there in the streets, you're like right underneath your mother. And not every mom is a good mom. Some women probably do hold resentment as a result of being abandoned. And I think that does get passed down to the sons. But I think who you have to take to task for that behavior is not your Black son, but the person that left. And I think that for the Black sons who I see now lashing out on YouTube, who just are tired, I think for those people, they need to, instead of being lazy and misogynistic, blaming everything on Black women, that they should take a step back and say, hey, look, I don't think that my mom would have been the way that she is if she had help, if she had a support system.
Exactly.
If she had a sense of community.
The idea, here's my next question as a follow-up, because now we want to talk about the idea that, it's funny, all you ever hear is the blame on the Black women who are saddled with these children that obviously they've gotten from thin air, by the way. But you always hear about it's all their fault. They're horrible mothers. The whole community's fucked up because they're horrible mothers. But here's what's so funny to me is that no one actually has in their mind an actual answer to, like, an actual what is the standard that you think a single mother and statistically, here's another piece, some more numbers, is that on average there are Black African American women are making a median of $36,000 a year, on average, those who are actually working, right? So if you're talking about that, you're like, how are they supposed to be 6,000 with no partner in raising children? Like, no one there's no one putting that together, that you're not exactly going to get the most perfect human being raising children, and that's not a thing all the time. Of course not, because I could say, well, my mother was an exception. I'm pretty sure you could say the same thing, but then again, no one's perfect. Like, parenting is hard. I don't know. You could be a single father, and there's no way your children are gonna come out unscathed from that experience, because there's no way that you're going to be perfect. So, my point here is that there's all this blame, and yet none of these dudes would love to point the finger or doing a goddamn thing about it. And then you have to wonder, well, where is the mother of your kids with all this, talking and jaw jacking that you're doing and blaming? You know what I'm saying?
Well, you're not lying. Look, at the end of the day, you can't expect great results from extremely dire situations. And you also can't place sole blame on a failed community on the mothers who are staying around. That is so backwards.
No, right? Okay,
It's
they're
how
the
so
ones who are
much.
there. Right. They're the ones who are there on the fucking ground, and then you're still gonna blame them for how fucked up everything is. Well, what if they actually just started saying, well, shit, if the man ain't gonna stay after he got me pregnant, then fuck it. I'm just gonna squat, push this baby out, and walk the fuck away too, like he did.
Well, no,
I
if
mean,
you're a
people would be
bad
ready to burn these women
mother,
to a stake.
well, exactly. But if you're a bad Black mother, you will get it back belly and front. There's no getting around that. If you are if you are a bad Black mother, it's worse than somebody that does, to me, I find it to be one of the highest crimes to abandon your child. I don't understand it. And their biggest concern is that there's child support.
And the child support isn't even all that much. What I mean, yeah, I mean, child
Sometimes it's
support.
$80 of listen. Listen. I've seen $80 a month, $40 a month. I mean, if you don't have a job that's on the books, you're really, I mean, yeah. Yeah, if you don't have a job that is counting your income and you have real taxable income,
Yeah.
the chances are that woman may end up with nothing. And that's for 5 days of the week. And you have 2 days visitation. And sadly, what I see is a woman going from, not a woman, I see the dad's girlfriends taking care of the children on the weekend. Now, if that situation were in reverse and a woman were to have a male around her kids on the weekend and didn't have custody, men would be in the streets.
Yep.
They would be in the streets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's already kind of happening anyway. Because if in case the dude a total sociopath and winds up killing one of the kids, then it's like they don't want to talk about the dude that killed the kid.
Mother? The blame still falls on the mother.
Exactly. Well, what was she doing? Oh, wasn't this boyfriend number 21? Like, what's she doing? She sat there and killed her kids with this crazy man. It's like, yeah, okay, right. You know, so she's going to be. So the thing is that this is what I wanted to talk about. It's not one of the questions, but I think we've kind of blown the questions at this point. But the thing that I wanted that's been kicking around in my mind, and I wanted to do an actual dedicated video of it, is what I like to call the witch burning syndrome. And it's just like this because since you introduced to me the Jeannie Burlesque channel, and I've been watching her videos, I'm like, dude, this woman, I mean, the thing is, I've heard her name here and there, but I didn't know the first thing about her. And then when you brought her up to me when we were planning this session, and I said, okay, I'm gonna check her out. And I went to her videos. I'm like, dude, this is like the most smartest, funniest. Like, this chick is punk rock. Like, that's like she is. I just found her to be like really intelligent and funny. And I'm sitting there like going like, how the hell did she get the rep that she got? And I said, oh, that's right, because she's not controllable. And when it comes down to it, we burn with, this society, and when I say our now at this point, I'm talking about human society, but basically patriarchy, has always had this thing about burning the witch. And the witch, of course, is the woman who doesn't do what we want women to do, that is not. So in other words, they're unmarried, or they might be married to who we don't want them to be, or she won't shut up. She won't do this. She won't do that. She's raising her kid the way we feel like she should be raising her. So it's like this pylon, and then you need to destroy her with a bad reputation. You need to cast her out of the community. You need to blame her for every bad thing that happens, and not blame the men, and not look at the men. And it's like, and then it's basically, and that's what it's about. It's like about burning the witch was a form of system of control. When they burned the witches in Salem, these were women who, I don't want to get into witchcraft and all of that because that's irrelevant. That was the lie they needed to use. But basically, when you think about it, these were women who rejected Christianity. They used holistic medicine to try to heal. They wanted to get women to birth babies, to birth in babies the more natural way, instead of this perverse King George way, which is for the woman to lay down and be painful doing it, instead of just standing up and squatting position. I mean, like they were into all of these different things. I'm sorry, what?
I think there are problems that go on with both. I mean, it's painful, period.
Well, yeah, it's painful, period. It ain't yeah. I mean, I could only imagine. But you know what I'm saying. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. But from what I've heard from women who I know who are doulas and midwives, there are some who push that idea of the squatting thing being letting gravity help out.
Well,
but what I'm saying is that they do all these different things to help women that alienates from male control, and these women had to be called witches. So when you look at what goes on in social media, and you look at what's going on in YouTube, we gotta give bad reps to women who just simply aren't acting the way we want them to act and being the way we want them to be.
Well, yeah, no. And if you're unable, if you're in any way want to have control of your body, you can forget about it.
Right.
But yeah, that woman, she's fought. Oh my gosh.
What happened?
I was spamming a chat room with our link. This is out to lunch.
Yeah, I'm not even looking at the chat room right now. I should be.
No, it's okay. You know what? East Coast Candy is here, and she's really enjoying the broadcast. Hi, East Coast. Danny K is in the chat room as well. Big J has stepped out. Well, yeah, I do feel that women are definitely demonized. And I can't take these people seriously. I don't even get really angry about it because these are not people that you can take seriously. They're non-thinking people. They don't make any sense. And I don't say that because I'm a woman. I say that because I think. I literally think, and it does not make sense.
Wow. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to have one person do something and get extremely mad if another person does the same thing. It's just, I think that people, one of the reasons why they don't like feminism um, is that they don't know how to not be who they are. They don't. I think also there's an awakening that happens when you're dealing with so much rage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's going on. The worst thing to be is a conscious Black person who's aware of the things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say conscious, I'm not talking about that community. I just mean to be aware of the things that are going on and to understand that it's not on accident that women are being treated so poorly. It's not an accident that Black people are being treated so poorly. It's not an accident that poverty exists. These are man-made structures, and it's very evil.
Is Zara? Okay.
Is Zara?
I'm sorry. I was just
I'm
trying to
sorry.
figure
I
out
was
if we were
trying to
still
figure out
up
if
and
we
running,
still up and running.
but I was just looking at the wrong window. All right. So, yeah. Well, I mean, it is. It's sort of coming to a political consciousness is sort of like being what sort of getting hit with a pesky third eye that sees through everything else, and you're trying to tell everybody, "Don't y'all see this? Don't y'all see this?" And nobody else knows what you're talking about, or they don't see what you're talking about. It can drive you crazy, right? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on Beyonce's Lemonade? It's been out for a while now.
Okay, I actually wrote this down. I did some more because I'm not very good with words. I can almost never quantify what I want to say into words. Let's see. On the Black community. More spam. Okay, here you go. I understand, this is a quote from this woman named Brianna. She's talked about the false revolution of corporate identity politics and pop culture feminism that merely loves and aspires to diversify positions of power and corruption as opposed to abolishing them. She says she also has an issue with the sizeism, heterocentrism, classism, colorism, and queer trans exploitation in her work. And I think that's very true because a few years ago, this woman was not so concerned. And I'm glad that she is. I'm glad that she's doing what she's doing, and I certainly appreciate it, but it's not lost on me. At the same time, I don't want to demonize her because she's doing what her white counterparts are doing either. but I do feel like, I mean, she's not even touring Africa. No, and her tickets are extremely expensive.
Right.
I'm not going to lie, but I did appreciate quite a bit of Lemonade. I Here's what I liked about it. I liked the poems.
Wait, you like the poems, right? Yeah.
That's what I liked. I really, really liked the poems by Warsan Shire. Most about Lemonade. I did not see the whole thing, um, but what I did was I looked up the poetry because it was just so beautiful, and I appreciated that Beyonce um, gave credit to this artist because oftentimes I know she's forgotten to do that. And she used this person, and she's now realizing that she can um, she can help others instead of taking their work. She can actually go forth and give others jobs, um, and be a voice for people that don't have a voice. I especially liked how she talked about the pain of the mother transferring over onto the daughter. And I think that's particularly true in our community. I mean, when it comes to male behavior and misogyny that goes on, I know that there is cheating that happens, and we just kind of we just kind of treat it as normal. She brought that up in one of the poems that she read. It's like, oh well, my dad did that, and now my I'm going to go through that too, and it's just a way of life for us to just be cheated on, and nobody really says anything. It's like, okay, so he did that. Oh wow.
Right.
There's no regard. And I think it's particularly troubling because I noticed she did talk about the cheating, but I think that there's this expectation that Black people, particularly Black men, are um, hypersexual. I mean, we're seen as hypersexual too, but I mean, they're seen as aggressive animals compared to somebody who's in control of their sexual desires. And I think that Black men are not seen as responsible, um, sexually responsible. So when she read the poem about her mother's, you know, her father cheating, and then her being cheated on. I thought, well, this is something that certainly hasn't been brought up before. The link between the two.
Yeah.
The other thing that I liked about it was this. Here's a quote from Warsan Shire. I don't know that this was used, but since I've been reading her work, here it is. It's not my responsibility to be beautiful. I'm not alive for that purpose. My existence is not about how desirable you find me. Now, I certainly appreciate this woman's work, especially since a lot of the movements that I see that are supposed to be aiding and pushing Black people forward have this focus on Black women being physically attractive. And it's like, okay, you know what? Enough is enough. And you literally now see um, pictures of of women, and they're being shamed for not looking the way that they feel a Black woman should look. We see classism, and I would have liked if Lemonade did talk about that, but I think that that would not be so good for Beyonce because she's kind of classist.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I would love to do a video on about how working class people see that when they happen to be in art or pop culture and then they themselves become rich, they have a tendency of being even more classist than ruling class people do.
Well,
Have, or at least classist in their attitude. Certainly not in power, but yeah, it's pretty interesting to me about that. About when you raise the classist attitude from Beyonce. Yeah, I think she is. I think I think most pop stars are, but if they
Yes,
haven't pop
exactly.
stars of color, it's
It is particularly filthy because I remember in her song Formation, she said, best revenge is your paper. So the best revenge is participating in white capitalism
yeah.
and benefiting.
Mhm.
I don't know that that's the best revenge.
Um, yeah, well, yeah, I don't think so either. And I think that we've seen how that when you go the route of, well, the best way that we can ever get justice or social justice is becoming just as rich and powerful, but it
Mhm.
doesn't work. First of all, capitalism isn't even designed that way. It's not designed for everybody to be rich. It never has been. It's never worked. No one's ever seen that before. It doesn't work that way. And
Nobody's ever seen it before.
exactly, I mean, it's not designed to do that, but it's designed to have the all of us to be working so that
That's
the
right.
few can get rich off of that. And the poor delusional people out there, like Beyonce, who have this attitude that I'm not an attitude. They just don't understand. They're very ignorant about in the world. They think that if they
Delusional.
because they sung some songs, dances, they get paid money, and now they're rich. And the thing is that you know what, their kind of rich isn't nothing compared to those who run oil companies, who actually own land, who actually own corporations and can control people's lives and actually have power over whole communities. Like they just have no idea. They honestly think that they're at that level and they're not.
Well, the thing is, I think that's part of why they do come back over. I mean, look at the YouTuber who has made it off of the backs of Black people's pain and comes
Mhm.
back over to look at the other people who don't have as many viewers and walks around and shows off their house. They can't do this with their other friends.
Right.
They
And I
can't
know
do
and I know what YouTuber you're
so why
talking
not
about.
yeah, why not hang out with people that are living like you? Because you can't compete. You know that may be their, fifth house like this.
Right.
Why not go hang? You never see these people hanging out with other rich people.
Yeah.
And I think that's because they want to peer down others.
Hmm.
And I don't like it. I think it's ugly. I think it's really ugly. I don't think that, yes, we are willing participants, Keith. However, there's a difference between that and being excessively flashy and saying, hey, look, um, I'm a better Black person, or,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that the person who's working a 9 to 5 is just as meaningful in helping Black people as somebody that is making millions of dollars who maybe isn't using their voice. But I think that if you're somebody that's working a 9 to 5, you need to definitely come together with other people like yourself and start pushing for change, because it's not like the people that have made it have really come back. And I can't really say that, but
Well, they do what they can. They might create a foundation here and there, and they might give charity, uh, but that's all they can do. I mean, even we all know that those of us who quote unquote make it, there's only so much that they can do with their money before they can wind up being poor again, trying to give out so much and do so much.
oh yeah, and that happens too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember what happened to MC MC Hammer's a perfect example. He thought he could take the whole hood with him, and it didn't work out that way. Not at all. So let me ask you this. What are you reading now?
Ooh. You know what? The last book I read was a few months ago. Typically now I'm reading articles. I'm reading You know what I like to do? I like to read, not really blogs, but narratives from people who otherwise would not have a voice. But thanks to the internet, they're able to go ahead and say things that they otherwise wouldn't. Right. So what I'm doing now more so is participating in conversation and learning from others and reading articles more than books. But the last book that I read a few months ago was What is a Dog's Purpose? And it was about a dog. It was from the perspective of a dog. And then I realized that like each time this dog died, it became another dog and lived a different life. And I read it because I have a dog, and I'm like, well, what is it like for her? I know that may sound silly, but I was genuinely curious.
Oh, who doesn't have questions like that?
Yeah, I wanted to know, what is it like? What does she understand or see that I don't, because I want to be a good pet parent.
Right. Well, hold on. Why am I getting echo?
You know what? This person is asking me for examples of the kinds of blogs that I read. Do you mind if I do a screen share?
No, go ahead.
Okay, because I do think that it is important that we leave people with resources. Let's see. Somebody else here says that I have such a deep voice and that I sound different than usual, all because, I'm not feeling well. And he says it's a blessing in disguise. Well, how about this? How about you bless yourself by never hearing my voice again? Ridiculous. Oh, they're asking about Bill Cosby going to trial in the chat room. Well, I think that it would be better if he didn't go to trial, because I would really have liked for somebody to have taken action against him physically before all of this. I mean, now we're finding out that he's done this so many times. It comes down to this one trial thanks to statute of limitations, which really just should be removed, in my personal opinion, especially since a lot of rape kits go untested. They need to just get rid of the statute. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I have no idea where the, I can't really say it's the remote. But we were talking.
Hi, I'm back.
Oh, there it is. I see. Okay, screen share. Here's one. It's called Everyday Feminism. And
I know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I go to this one. I certainly appreciate it. Let's see. It looks like I have a little bit of a lag there. Okay. I go to the race section, and I particularly like the mental health pieces. We talk about cultural appropriation, white supremacy. Let's see. Somebody's talking about their eyebrows. I'm talking about reclamation of personal rights as an Asian American woman, and Black atheism, and how it kind of goes ignored. Ooh, and then we have this one, which is particularly helpful because we were just talking about class. There was a quote in here that I think you would really like. I read this one yesterday. We were talking about, essentially we were talking about respectability politics. Let's see. One of the things that is harmful to the Black community in terms of our push for equality is respectability politics. It's a huge problem, especially for Black women.
Yeah.
This person says statements like young men need to pull up their pants and stop wearing hoodies highlight respectability politics in conversations related to Black safety in public places. Sometimes the most dangerous thing Black people can wear is our own skin. The other thing that this article highlights, I mean, in this, just reading one feminist article will basically debunk a lot of the quote-unquote solutions that these people have in this. You can't really call it the Black sector, but the Black troll-run sector of YouTube. Okay, your approach treats all Black people as if we're a monolith. Comments like, they're shaming the race, they're making us look bad, and they're ruining it for all of us are also fueled by respectability politics. Now, I think that that is particularly true. I see some of the people who have more money shaming people that have less. They're basically upset with the poverty culture that has been derived by the ghettos that we have in our community. And I'm not really upset that there's a sense of camaraderie and that people speak in a way that makes them feel comfortable with others.
Right, right.
I really actually like that sense of community. And I really think that unlearning whiteness as the standard is key. A lot of people call this cooning, but really it's treating Black people as if we're a monolith.
Exactly. And that is and that's where I did a little short series about respectability of politics, because the point of my video was that while we're sitting around talking about people pulling up their pants, women, young mothers, well, one being young mothers, and two, women having tattoos, all this stuff. And meanwhile, what I did was I took all that and I paired it against real shit that Black people are actually facing, like unemployment, school to prison pipeline, just another real shit that we are having problems with. And why can't we sit down and actually start talking about and organizing around that rather than
versus
shaming
public
people?
Shaming.
Yeah, rather than shaming people and talking shit. Because in the end of the day, that's all it really comes down to. It's fluff.
It's not productive, and I think it really aids in deflecting the guilt that white people should be feeling. Well, not should be. I can't say should be. The blame, I should say. It really aids in deflecting the blame that really belongs on a white structure.
Now,
if Black people would act different, speak differently, if only we could be more like the whites. And I think that's part of the problem when I hear people talking about essentially recreating white patriarchy, but with a Black community. They don't realize the problems it's caused for white people, yet alone us.
Exactly.
You're not going to be able to do that without oppressing a large group of people.
Which now leads, because you now brought up, obviously we're going to have to do a part 2, because I really have to get to bed in 30 minutes. But here's the thing. I want to give some of our discussion points to the people in our chat room, because someone brought up Bill Cosby. What do we think? They had asked, what do we think about Bill Cosby going to trial? Now, on the night of New Year's Eve, in my personal circles, we had a damn good, lively discussion that was almost like 2 hours after the ball dropped, right? About Bill Cosby, and not everybody was on the same page about him. But what was interesting about the conversation, because the majority of people in that room, sorry, were women. I think it was only two men were in the room, myself and another brother who's more like a relative of. Well, he was our relative, but the point is that one thing that was funny is that while some of the women in there agreed just off the bat that there was no way he raped them women because it's Bill Cosby. But what was interesting was that all of them agreed how annoyed they were of him with the whole respectability politics tour, when he what I call the respectability politics tour. But as you remember, because that's actually what kind of started off people saying, "Hey, didn't he rape somebody?" Like that. It was back in 2008, I believe it was, right, when he was going on tour, and he was doing those talks, and all he could do was talk about. He was telling the stupid pound cake story and the.
Oh gosh, do you want me to play that clip? I have it.
I don't know if we have enough time for that, but it's.
Oh yeah, it was about a full 60 seconds. He's talking about don't steal the pound cake if you don't want to be shot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so tell your son not to steal the pound cake. By the time somebody is stealing food, what condition do you think they're in?
Exactly. But it's like, here is this man talking to us and lecturing us about everything: pants, tattoos, the way we talk, not doing anything, and yet there's real shit going on: unemployment, drug addiction, untreated psychological issues, and meanwhile he's raped women. Because I definitely off the bat believe that he committed those rapes. I do. It's sorry, his behavior falls way too in the statistics that tells us that profiles rapists. And more than one or two people tell you that the exact same thing happened to them when they were around this person, then guess what? He raped some people. I mean, it's just that simple. Everybody wants to focus in on, well, look at this chick. Wasn't that chick a stripper? Well, wasn't this woman a this? And wasn't this woman an up-and-coming and struggling actress? And wasn't like, that's the only thing we want to talk about, because we don't. That's deflection. We don't want to face the fact that somebody who is famous, who's rich, who's been the moral arbiter of the Black community, or self-appointed one anyway, is
very self-aware.
He's indeed a rapist. But I'm sorry, even if he has a couple of false accusers, let's talk about the majority of the stories of women who weren't friends, who aren't in the same city, not in the same state. Hell, this is the sickest part, not even the same generation. I mean, this dude has been raping women since his career started. And you're talking about the youngest victim being, I think she's now in her mid-30s or something. And the oldest victims are close to his age. I mean, these women there's no room for them to sit and make a conspiracy here, is what I'm saying.
Well, in some of the conspiracies I've heard, I'm glad you brought that up. One of them was that he was going to buy NBC. Well,
oh my God.
What? NBC that was during the early 90s, and he did not have enough money, nearly enough. So he would have had to be like a partial, I don't even know if it would have been 10%, in order to purchase NBC. But unfortunately, due to mass oppression, there are people who are willing to believe stories like that when it comes down to it and say, oh, well, that Black man is being persecuted, when in reality, he's somebody that has done quite a bit of raping.
Right.
Yeah. So what I was going to tell you is there was something else, though. Not only that, but anybody who lives on either of the coasts here on the West Coast, you knew about this before it hit. He was also doing silencing, not doing silencing. He was he was silencing black media. Um, I posted an interview with D.L. Hughley where he spoke about confronting Bill about what he did years and years ago, and Bill told him the tape will never see the light of
I
day.
heard that. Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, I posted it, and he said that, and then, somebody from, it was Sirius or Cyrus Radio, came and took the tape. Not only that, but Wendy Williams brought it up, and he tried to get her fired from her job, again, years and years ago. This isn't the first time it's even been written about. So for people to say, why all this now? Why all this now?
Oh my God, that question.
Decades.
Uh, here's the thing, because again, it goes back to that thing that people don't like to talk about, and it doesn't matter about race at this point. It's part of the patriarchal culture. This idea that, because when you start to talk about things like how people who have been victimized by certain things and how they react, in other words, now you're getting into that psychology stuff, quote unquote. And when people start getting into that psychology stuff, well, again, hey, that's not real. It's not. If you can't eat it, it ain't real, right? That's their attitude towards when you start talking about. But again, there's plenty of studies and statistics that support. Why is it that people don't come out and report when something like that has happened to them? Because of the stigma attached to it, because fear of not being believed, because the fear of no one listening, or all of that stuff is attached to it. That's why now. And then when one person comes up and says, well, you know what, I don't give a shit, I'm going to come out and I'm going to let everybody know. And then that's when other people feel the courage to say, yeah, I want to stand up and I want to say something. And that's why now. But I don't know why everybody, well, I do know why people ask it. I don't even get that angry when people ask that question, because it's just so deeply trained in us to immediately deny, well, really the existence of rape, and two, that it actually happened to somebody.
Well, yeah, it makes people uncomfortable, I think, also because we all know somebody who's a rapist or a molester, or who at some point could become one. And I think that, unfortunately, people are going to have a place where they can come forward and admit that they have those feelings.
Yeah.
In order for meaningful change to come. Because I'm seeing now that there are people who, instead of harming people, others, sexually, they're going ahead and they're getting counseling so that they don't. But people would rather just ignore. Somebody brought up Hillary Clinton. Yeah, they're saying they're saying that Bill is a rapist. Now, I've heard, my issue with Bill was separate because I hadn't actually heard of any official rape claims. I think that he sexually harasses women in the workplace.
I think he does, and I think he's sexually assault. Well, my feeling is that people could say how willing Monica Lewinsky.
Oh gosh, that's ridiculous.
But yeah, but see, my feeling is that when you have the responsibility, you have the power, you're taking advantage of a situation. I don't care how willing she was or what she wanted to do. I don't give a shit about any of that. The thing is that you being who you are, for one, as an older person, two, as a person with power, and being in the position of power as an employee, as an employer, which is what he was technically. The point is that he took advantage of a situation like that, and so the way I see it, it was assault. That's the way I see it. because he, whether she wanted to or not, if she ultimately would have felt that this was going to go like down a bad road, like if she wanted to feel that way, then she would have to be under threat of, well, what if I want to stop doing this with him? What if I want to, like, if they would have carried on an affair, then it would be like, well, what if I want to stop? Now I feel like my job is going to be threatened. Or
well, keep in mind, what she was extremely young. I cannot imagine.
Young.
Yeah, being her age, and then basically, Hillary stepped aside while this woman was completely slut shamed.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I hear from people inside of the White House, they were like, Hillary saw this as a time to be seen as a victim. She really wasn't caring about Bill, and this wasn't the first time he had cheated. We know this for a fact. He's, used his campaign to campaign funds to pay off women, at least one woman, to keep from coming forward. My issue is that he was very close friends with this guy. What is his name? Can't remember the name of the guy, but he's somebody that has so many accusations of rape against him from underage girls, and there's this ongoing court case. He's a billionaire, or probably a multi-billionaire, and this man had 21 numbers for Bill Clinton. He had 21 of his phone numbers. Bill used to use his jet quite frequently, and this man is having underage girls come over all the time. And I'm like, well, why is he this close to this person? Because 21 phone numbers is quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, anything that was donated, are they going to give it back? I just can't. And secondarily, my other issue, I like what Hillary has to say. I don't think she would be a bad president at all. Unfortunately, I just don't think she's genuine in how in when it comes to women's rights. I was going to vote for Bernie, but concerned that Trump could win over Bernie, I think is stopping a lot of people from voting for Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was going to tell you is this. Hillary, I remember vividly hearing a clip where she's talking about how she defended this rapist, who had been accused of raping a 12-year-old girl. And the victim, the man didn't go to jail. And the victim is just talking about how she felt like Hillary ripped her apart on the stand. Now, as a woman, I feel that this is just a travesty for somebody that's supposed to be an advocate for us. Sometimes people are just power hungry.
Well, yeah, I mean, Hillary
has to be really kept in check. Yeah, I think she's somebody that has to be kept in check by somebody else, because I don't think I think she may be morally corrupt. Her husband definitely is.
I don't. Well, before I go and respond to that, there was one comment that Bewildered Ape in the comment section made that he, because I think our part 2 session, you and I want to talk a little bit more about race and class and capitalism, because Bewildered Ape in the comment section wanted to know what we felt about Frantz Fanon's work. I think that Frantz Fanon's his last name I always mess up, but Frantz Fanon's Black Skin, White Mask, I think, where it deals with, I mean, in terms of what he's writing, it fits with the neocolonial mindset of not only Africa, but of all Africans throughout the diaspora. We all suffer this syndrome. So I think that when we come back together and do another hangout, I think I would love to specifically talk about that. I want to talk about how, for instance, the richer Beyonce gets, the lighter she gets, the blonder she gets. I want to talk about.
It's part of anti-blackness.
Yeah, yeah. So
You mean
I definitely want to talk about that. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying it's definitely anti-blackness, and it's about making people very comfortable. I remember Paul Mooney saying, when your hair is relaxed, white people are relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna go ahead. I need to sign off now. I've got work tomorrow, and this was really, really good. I think that I we were supposed to have 21 questions, but forget about it. I mean, I think that mainly most of the things that you said in your opening statements covered those questions. So the way I see it,
Hello? Oh, what happened to him, you guys?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm back. My machine went to sleep on me. So what I was saying is that what I want to do is I already decided that I wanted to do sort of like a roundtable discussion for next Thursday. Of course, you could be part of that, but I want to see if Pure Butterfly Spirit could come in and Force 100able. And hey, anybody in the chat room, we're gonna put the link for next week's jump in. I'm just gonna call it that, the jump in session. I'm gonna put the link in the chat room so everyone else can join in. And we're just probably gonna talk about 1 or 2 sessions. I will say this: it won't be a 2-hour hangout. I gotta keep the hangouts down to at least an hour, but that's just me. That's just how I want to do things. It's really hard for me to listen. Seriously, it's really hard for me to listen to other people's hangouts. I have to literally break them down into 1 day or 2 in order for me to listen to some people's hangouts. I can't do that.
Well,
but anyway,
I can't listen to it either because I have ADD, if you might have noticed. But don't worry, I'm trying a new medication. So say a prayer, you guys. Hopefully I'll be focused
that's cool.
time.
All right.
But I actually want to start a secondary stream so that if anybody wanted to come forward and talk, like an after show to this,
okay.
definitely can.
All right, well, peace. And first of all, let me thank everybody in the chat room for coming and showing up. I'm sorry, guys. I messed up on the first session because I had no idea that the chat room doesn't work if you do a pre-event, or maybe that's, I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. I'll have to.
People came back. I think that they want to hear you speak. At least I do. I love hearing you talk.
Oh, thanks. Thank you so much.
It gives me hope.
So, and I really want to thank I swear to God, this is so weird. I want to thank the 5 people who subscribed to this channel just from this session alone tonight. So I want to thank you guys. I'm going to find out who you all are. And as I do with all my new subscribers, I just send individual messages to them, thanking them for subscribing. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. Peace. This was awesome, and we will all see you next Thursday.
Okay, I'll definitely be here. 7 p.m., right?
Yeah, 7 p.m. your time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard, my time.
Okay, and my stream right now is live for anybody that wants to transfer chat rooms. So we can have an after show discussion.